On the front side of our foldable, we have the percent proportion, which says part over whole or is over of equals percent over 100. I'm just going to put that really quickly up here at the top. Part over whole or is over of equals percent over 100. Just so that I have it in case I need it as we go. So for each of these examples, we're going to write and solve a proportion to find the missing number. The first one says, what is 30% of 50? So 30% of 50, of is my whole, 50 is my whole, and I want to know what part of that is. So the part is the one that I don't know. Part over whole is 50 equals percent, which is 30 over 100. This is my percent proportion. I've got my part over my whole equals my percent over 100. Or is, what is, so what is what we don't know, that's why I put a variable in, P, over of 50, 50 is my of, number goes in the bottom, equals percent over 100, again the percent is 30, and then 100 never changes, it's always the same. And so now we can solve this proportion using cross products. 100 times P is 100P, and 50 times 30 is 1,500. Now I have to isolate my P, isolate my variable, and get it by itself. And the inverse of multiplying by 100 is dividing by 100. So I divide both sides by 100, and when I do that, I get P equals 15. So 15 is 30% of 50. That seems reasonable, makes sense. And I can go to the next problem. The next problem says find 35% of 60. So we're trying to find a part again. We know that of 60, of means that's our whole, 60 is our whole, equals percent, 35 over 100. And we said earlier the 100 stays the same always. The other three numbers, you'll know 2 of 3, and then you'll have to solve for the missing part. And so you can put in any variable here. This time I'll choose x. And then we can solve the proportion using the cross products. So 100 times x is 100x. 60 times 35, you may or may not know that, but we're allowed to use a calculator in this unit. So 60 times 35 is 2,100. So I'm going to write 100x equals 2,100. The inverse of multiplying by 100 here is dividing by 100. So if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. And then when I divide, 2,100 divided by 100, x equals 21. So now I'm going to come back to the original problem, find 35% of 60. 21 is 35% is less than half. 21 is less than half of 60. Half of 60 is 30. And 21 seems like a reasonable number because of that to me. So I'm going to say x equals 21, and 21 is my answer. The next one, 40% of 210 is what number? 40% is my percent over 100, 40 over 100, and then equals to of 210. Of is my bottom number, of is my whole number. So I, again, don't know my part, so I'm going to put a P for part at the top. I don't know my part, but I know my whole is 210, 40% out of 100. Percent is a ratio compared to 100, so 40 over 100 is my fraction. And now I can use cross products to solve. I have 100 times P is 100P. 210 times 40, you may or may not know, so I'm going to pull out my calculator just to make sure and verify so I don't make a silly mistake. And when I do that, I get 8,400. So 100P equals 8,400. Divide both sides by 100 because that's the inverse of multiplying by 100. And when I do that, I get P equals 84 is my answer. So 40% of 210 is 84. I know that 40% is close to 50, and 50% of 210 is 105, so 84 seems close enough to 105 that it seems reasonable and makes sense, so that I can keep going. On these next three examples, we've got percents that are bigger than 100, but that doesn't matter. That shouldn't matter. What that means is that our part is actually going to be bigger than our whole, but we still have the same proportion. What is 110% of 90? My of number always goes on bottom. 110% out of 100, and then I can put a variable. Let's put A up here. I can use cross products to solve. 100A equals 9,900. And now the inverse of multiplying by 100 is dividing by 100, so I do that on both sides. And I get A equals 99. So 110% of 90 is 99. That makes sense because 110% is bigger than 100. So my answer is going to have to be bigger than my whole, bigger than 90. And so my answer here, 99, seems reasonable and makes sense. On the next one, find 150% of 60. Again, 60 is my whole this time. 150 out of 100 means that my part, I'm going to label it B this time, is going to be bigger than my original 60%. 150% means that we have more than 60. We have more than the whole. And so just make sure that you continue using this percent proportion and the little tricks up here and to set up your proportion, and then you're just using cross products to solve. 100 times B is 100B. 60 times 150 is 9,000. 100B equals 9,000. I have to use inverse operations to isolate my variable. So I divide both sides by 100. And when I do that, I get B equals 90. This one is one that I could almost do in my head because 100% of 60 is 60. 50% of 60 is 30. So 60 plus 30 is 90. I just did a mental check and said, yeah, that definitely makes sense. In fact, I might not have had to use the percent proportion. I did use it because that's what my directions say up here, but I didn't necessarily need to if I have some good number sense on my own. At this time, I would challenge you to pause the video and try this one on your own and then see how you did. Okay, so hopefully you tried this. 120% of 30 is what number? We don't know our part, so I'm going to label it C. We know that our whole is 30, and we're trying to find 120% out of 100% of that number. So I set up my proportion. C over 30 equals 120 over 100. When I use cross products, I get 100C equals 3,600. And then when I divide both sides by 100 to isolate my variable, I get C equals 36. So 120% of 30 is 36. My answer is bigger than my original, which makes sense since 120% is bigger than 100, and I'm good to go.